everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Inside Groove right here on Northwest Access TV. I'm your host, Nick Mumley, and with me, as usual, Dustin Tanner. Dustin, we had a fantastic race at Talladega yesterday. All weekend at Talladega was fun. Just a great weekend to be a NASCAR fan.
Yeah, one of the better weekends we've had in a while, especially after a couple lackluster weekends. We finally had a little fun again, so a lot to talk about with Dega, but a good race overall.
Absolutely. So Chase Elliott, he was the winner at Talladega. It's his first win of 2019. First win for Chevy in 2019 as well. They actually finished quite a few cars in the top 10. Alex Bowman running second in this one, a controversial finish. We'll get to that later on in the show. First race at Talladega in the with the new package. No more restrictor plates at Talladega and Daytona. This was the first time we got to see how these cars would work out with the new aero package. And the results, I think, were pretty good. They've been received pretty well by the fan base as well.
Yeah, no, very well. The package, I think it gave them more horse. What was interesting about this package is that taking the restrictor plate off actually gave them more horsepower at Talladega, so that was pretty cool.
We saw guys running up to 204 miles per hour in practice over the weekend, and some of the fastest closing distance we'd ever seen among these drivers, according to the drivers, and it all panned out well in the race on Sunday. And not to be forgotten, we had some local action as well. The Airborne Park, Plattsburgh Airborne Speedway, now no longer Airborne Park Speedway. They had their opening weekend. It was cold and rainy and miserable the entire night, but I was there. Some good racing for a very cold weather evening, but just a good way to kick off the 2019 season for the local racing. The American Canadian Tour was also in action on Sunday, and Thunder Road's going to be racing on Sunday with the Community Bank 150.
Thunder Road
made some changes. We'll take a look at those as well. We did discuss them a little bit last week, but we'll dive deeper into them.
We got a full photo
today.
We don't have the graphic this week. We've seen a full photo of it now.
Yep. They've put an entire wall around Thunder Road, so we'll get into that. A lot of exciting developments, but local racing season for Vermont, New York, and New Hampshire underway, and we couldn't be more excited about it. But let's get into the top story here as we begin the show. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series at Talladega in action for the first time at a plate track with this new package. Of course, they didn't run the 2019 rules package at Daytona. They ran the restrictor plates there for the Daytona 500. They changed over to this new aero package for this Talladega race, the Geico 500, and Chase Elliott wins in really a thrilling race.
Yeah, no, it was a very fun race overall. Lots of comers and goers, which is what you like to see at plate tracks. And you didn't really know who the favorite was, and there really wasn't a favorite even until, going to the start and finish line. If they didn't throw a caution, I don't know if Chase Elliott wins that race.
I don't think
Just a great race overall. A lot of passing, a lot of quality, some wrecks. My guy was out within 10 laps. It kind of sucked. Not a big one this year.
Right.
Not a 20 car pile up like we see at Daytona.
At the 500. Yeah.
But a good race, a race of attrition, there were 26 cars running at the end, but when it was all said and done, actually like 24 or 23 when you really count it, if they would have run a couple extra laps. So good race, attrition race, Chase winning, fans were happy.
Yeah,
very happy.
And they said about 189,000 came in and out of Talladega over the course of the weekend, which is just awesome. I mean, that's what we want to see when, 2-3 weeks ago, we're looking at the Bristol race where there's 40,000 people in the stands. Then you come to Talladega, and I think there was close to $100,000 for the Sunday race. That's what you want to see. Talladega's doing something right. NASCAR needs to figure out how to spread this out, spread what Talladega's doing.
I think Talladega had good weather. I think the thing that was working against Bristol is that Bristol is so big that they need to. I said this a couple weeks ago on the show, Bristol needs to tear down one of those seating structures and build luxury seating. But Talladega I think what Talladega does right is that it's not about the race.
Yeah.
It's about Talladega. Like, you
Right.
go watch some of the Instagram stories of some of these drivers and what's going on in the Talladega infield, and it's just like, it's a party. It's
Not
the
to
world.
mention that entire new renovation that they're coming up with.
I'm really excited for that renovation. I'm thinking about going for that renovation.
That would be something else. It really would be. Talladega is obviously a bucket list track. I think any race fan would want to get there at some point in their lives, but they just do it so well there, and you can see that very clearly, even through the poor lens that Fox gave us yesterday with one of the worst NASCAR broadcasts I've ever seen. We'll get into ripping Fox later on, but they will be ripped on this show. But man, Talladega's doing it right.
But and I think it's all about making it. I think what these people need to realize is that you are making it an event. You're trying to make the race an event that it's like a music festival with the race being a sideshow.
Right.
And that's what Talladega is. It's one of the world's biggest parties. It's why the Indy 500 is such a special race, because if you've ever heard of the Snake Pit, it is one of the biggest party scenes in America.
It's a month-long event, too.
It's a month-long party. So, you can move into Indy for a month out of the year.
Right.
Talladega, you can move in for a big week and a fun week. And they just did it right. And the racing on the track was wonderful as well.
Now let's get on to that racing that was on the track. We saw Chase Elliott win, 38 lead changes in this race. This was, I believe, second most in the last, the most lead changes since 2014, when there was 48 lead changes in that race. The fall race last year, the last Talladega race with restrictor plates, there was only 14 lead changes. So I think that they made a good move to go over to this new package, and the racing was really good. But we saw Chevy pretty much dominate the day. They ran up front, especially in the later stages of this race. They were up front for most of it. Alex Bowman, William Byron were right there. Chase Elliott, obviously.
Well, Chevy stuck to the script, and when it got to clutch time, Kurt Busch stuck to the script really well, and Kurt Busch took out Ricky Stenhouse's momentum. Like, Kurt Busch was like, nope, this is not happening, and set it up so easily. So that freight train of Chevys of, Elliott, Bowman, Pierce, and Hemrick could still stay in that line, and that was a big move. And Chevy, all the manufacturers had talked about it. Chevy had been going without a win. I think that was a big point of leading in the Talladega, being like, okay, like somebody with a bow tie needs to get into victory lane. You don't care who, but somebody. And they stuck to the script.
Well, we looked at this as an opportunity for Chevy to get that first win, kind of, get things going for the season after what had been a miserable start. And that's exactly what they did. Everything worked out perfectly for him. Like you said, Kurt Busch had a great move there at the end to kind of get these guys in position. And I think it's big for Chase Elliott. I think it's big for Chevy. I think it's big for Alex Bowman, because Bowman has been struggling as well. And for him to go out and run second, had a chance at the win. I think if this race goes green to the end, if NASCAR lets him run back around, I think we're looking at Alex Bowman.
NASCAR lets him run around Alex Bowman and wins his first race. And Alex Bowman, you want to talk about how big of a week that was? He jumped 6 spots in the point standings.
He was not in the playoffs, believe it.
He went from not in the playoffs to in the playoffs. In 1 week, he went from on the outside looking into holding one of those last 2 spots. That's a huge race for him. You definitely feel like the heat might be on him sometimes, because of the 4 drivers at Hendrick, he's not really the chosen son. So it was really good. I always root for him to run well, basically.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys who's come up the hard way. I mean, he struggled a lot with those BK racing cars for a couple of years, and then kind of had to hit the reset button on his career. Dale Jr. gave him a shot, and now he's up here in the top
a simulator for a year.
Right. I mean, it's just a tough spot for him to be in. You can't help but cheer for the guy, even if he is one of the more bland personalities in the garage. But yeah, I mean, my question for you is this a race where Chevy can build momentum off of it? Is it going to be back to normal next week at Dover, or is something going to change for Team Chevy as a whole?
For me, because Chase Elliott won Dover last year, so I'm going to be interested to see, does Chase Elliott keep that momentum going up? I'm not sure if this is the race we're looking for Chevy, but it's a good step in the right direction. Especially for Chase Elliott, who, is supposed to be that banner carrier. He carried the banner last year. He did a very good job with that, but he needs some help around him, and I think that's a good start for that team to get a victory, get back in the victory lane, and go into a track where they know Chase is strong next week and be able to build a little more. Right,
and that leads right into it. My next question here: is this a bigger race for Team Chevy, or is this a bigger race? Do the results mean more for Chase Elliott or Team Chevy as a whole?
I think it's a wash. I think it means a lot for Chevy, but I think it means a lot for Chase Elliott. We'll see how the season plays out. I think right now it means a lot for both of them, but this might be the catalyst that Chase Elliott can get to make that Final Four spot in the playoffs, and maybe have a shot at a championship come Homestead.
Right. Well, I think that it's bigger for Chase Elliott because this is. You kind of have to take the super speedways with a grain of salt. We saw Hendrick do really well in the Daytona 500 as well. Those four Hendrick cars were the top four qualifiers, and the RCR cars were right behind him. Until Hendrick or Team Chevy as a whole is able to get a good 2 or 3 race stretch going, I think Dover's crucial for them. And then what is it, Charlotte the next week?
Charlotte.
Yeah.
All-Star
you have
Charlotte,
the All-Star race,
Charlotte.
and then the Coke 600. So if Team Chevy can, continually improve their results through Dover and through the Coke 600, I think that is going to be their momentum boost.
Yes.
But for Chase Elliott, it's that first win of the year. It's saying, okay, listen, I can still do this. It's been a little while since my last win.
Well, he had Chevy's last win.
Right. What was it, Kansas last year?
Yes, it was Kansas.
So, it's been a while for Chase. It's kind of nice. He's been in a rut. He's been a 10th to 15th place car all year long this year. This is a momentum booster. He got to run up with the big boys this week, made those passes, was able to, show off a strong car. That whole team's been struggling. I think this gives that team, Chase Elliott, a big boost going in, a lot more so than Chevy, because I think that there's a very good chance that next week Chevy is back to average.
Yeah, no, I think you got to guard against the letdown. You cannot expect Chevy to be good just yet.
Right.
We got to see how they do at Dover next week. We got to see how they do at Charlotte. Those are the next two. Those are the next 2 big races for them. They got to come out and they got to still run well in those 2 races.
So, like we talked about, we saw NASCAR make these changes with the package, the aero packages of the cars. No more restrictor plates, the tapered spacers, the tall rear spoilers, the wicker bill that they added. So, overall, thoughts on the racing? Better than before?
Better, faster. We saw speed for the first time this year. The cars were hard to drive again.
Which is what we've been asking
which is
for
what
as a
we
fan
want.
base.
And that was one of those things where those cars were dicey. You had some in-car camera shots of Joey Logano. He was doing the work.
Right.
I like it. I like the dicey cars. I think the racing was a lot better. I don't know how much the workout did anything. I think it tried to slow it down, but it actually made it a little faster. But you know what? It was perfect. This package was designed to make medium speedways raceable. Actually made a super speedway the raciest it's ever been. So right. I love it. I'm glad. It was a good package here.
Yeah, I thought it was good as well. I think that restrictor plates needed to go. You cannot have something around in NASCAR since the late 80s and expect it to just work forever. As great as restrictor plates were for a very, very long time, I think that pretty much by 2016, when that whole let's just run in a single file line around the outside of the racetrack began, I think that was the death of restrictor plate racing, because
I agree with that sentiment.
By the end, it was just garbage.
Yep.
And all of Speed Weeks, the last weeks of the restrictor plate were just complete garbage. From the truck race. The truck race was good, but you had the ARCA race that weekend. You had the Xfinity race, which had like 2 passes for the lead. The Daytona 500 was good, but I think that kind of got us away from the whole fact that restrictor plate racing
the last 2 or 3 years.
They changed it at the right time.
Yeah, it was getting broken. It was getting bad, and they finally changed it and made it good enough again. And I like it. It's good. It's good now.
Yeah, I agree. So this is a topic that you kind of wanted to get into. At the end of the race, we saw obviously a couple of big crashes on the last lap. Ricky Stenhouse turned into the outside wall, goes across, leaves a bunch of damage across the start-finish line, and spins just below and onto the apron. And then as they go down the backstretch, the caution comes out, but it's Steve O'Donnell, who controls the races pretty much, explained, why the cautions were called. And the caution was out for Stenhouse when it was called.
The caution was out for the debris from Stenhouse, which was pretty big when you looked at it. Which was
bad. But after the caution, or right as the caution was flown, we saw Kyle Larson, Jeffrey Earnhardt go spinning into the infield on the backstretch. Larson's cars flipped multiple times in a event that Fox failed to have any coverage of. They had 100 cameras. They were, flexing their drone camera all night.
And they couldn't get the one car that flipped.
They could not get the.
All we had was a crappy live shot. That's all we had.
It was just a complete debacle. But so they call the caution. Then your question to me was, okay, what should NASCAR do about this? Should they go back possibly to the rule that they took away in 04 where you race back to the yellow flag?
I don't think they should be racing back to the yellow flag. What I think they should do is I think there should be a set zone where you race out of, especially on a track like Talladega, right? So it's like you could have said...
So are you saying an overtime line?
Well,
because we all know how that works out.
I like the overtime line concept if you move the overtime line out of 3 and 4. Put the overtime line right at the trial. They have plenty of time to get slowed down. And then say, okay, hey, got to reach this part. Or race to that part. Not the overtime line in the sense of if there's not a caution by the time you get to this part. I think it should be one of those things where you get out of corner 4 and there'll be a line right there. An official line that's not the finish line where it's like, okay, if a race is going to end out of caution, you can race out to here. Because I think that would help, get a couple finishers. I think that would make it a little more exciting. Just an idea I've had, because it does kind of stink, and I get, but safety concept.
It's all about the safety. We saw this was the rule for NASCAR from the start of the sport all the way up to 2004, when actually at New Hampshire, Dale Jarrett was spun out and stalled in the middle of the track on the front stretch, and they were racing back to the yellow flag, and Jarrett was just sitting there in the middle of the track, helpless, and he almost got run over. And so after that, they changed that. As soon as the yellow flag comes out, the field is frozen. For the last lap, I think that there is some leeway here. I think that it needs to be made more flexible.
Yes.
With how it is right now, I think NASCAR has kind of boxed themselves in with some really strict rules on how, when, and where, and how the caution needs to be thrown at the end of these races. I think that the rule change should only account for restrictor plates or for super speedways.
They should be super speedways and road courses, places where going back to the line or going a little further before you hit the caution light is not going to affect anything, basically.
Right. But basically what NASCAR needs to do here is just be able to make it a judgment call on their part and say, okay, these guys, the rule needs to be last lap of a super speedway or a road course race, there's a car spun out. The rule should be go to the race to the flag. NASCAR needs to make the judgment call, say, okay, is there someone directly in the way of the finish line that could be a hazard potentially?
Is this a safety call?
Right.
That's what NASCAR needs to do.
If a car spins on the backstretch at Talladega and is, run over and, they hit the wall, the driver's okay, window net comes down, there should by no means ever be a caution right there. You go back to when Tony Stewart flipped on the last lap at Talladega in 2012. That shouldn't have been a caution. That should have been raced back to the line because it was out of the danger zone. But Ricky Stenhouse, I agree with where they called the caution, not just because I'm a Chase Elliott fan, but I think that,
no, but
it's a safety concern.
Once Phelps showed it, like that's
right.
like, okay, there's debris coming to the start-finish line, and then there's a car where historically there's a wreck right there. Like historically, like Stenhouse, he's an ugly duck being ready to get smashed.
Duck. Right. And unless the crash is on that front stretch or right in the vicinity of the start-finish line, there should be nothing there. I think that these guys should be allowed to race back on the last lap at the super speedway and road courses. But that's it. I think that at the end of the day, it's a balance between safety and excitement, and I think safety needs to always win in that battle.
Yes, obviously.
I
just really wish they would have flicked the lights just like 10 seconds later. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. But at the same time, it's frustrating that they had to do it, but I think the right call was made. So Kevin Harvick had some harsh words for Bubba Wallace.
Kevin Harvick. Let's
Dustin, I'll let you take over.
Well, my mouth is dry because I forgot to bring water in here for me, like an idiot. So I'm trying not to choke. I
also forgot water, so
I'm also trying not to choke. Kevin Harvick. Now let's go back a couple years to the playoff race, at the fall playoff race at Talladega. Nick, do you remember what Kevin Harvick did? Do you remember?
I remember Kevin Harvick intentionally wrecking Trevor Bayne because his car did not have like second or third gear or something.
Yeah, so Kevin Harvick was blowing an engine and decided to wreck half the field
so he could move on in the playoffs.
So Kevin Harvick, I really hate Kevin Harvick. I think he is the type of guy who says, well, I'm doing it the correct way and you're doing it the wrong way, even when he's not doing it the correct way. Bubba Wallace in that crash was obviously trying to not cause a crash. If you look at the replay, he locked with Blaney. He had such a big run. It was one of those things where
it was a mistake, but it was an honest mistake.
It was an honest mistake where he was like, I'm going to try to go down, because he was clear on the bottom, and then his little Chevy emblem touched with that back of that Mustang, and he lost it. So for Kevin Harvick to say something like, oh, well, he's in over his head, it's like, Kevin, you need to shut up. Like, you have wrecked half the field. You got mad at Ross Chastain when he was driving for his life in the Xfinity Series because he had the audacity to race you in the second tier series. Kevin Harvick is all talk. He is, I don't want to call him washed up, but he's always been one of those guys who's like, look, you have to get out of my way. You have to be out of my way. You have to respect me as a racer, and I can say anything about you. And sometimes I like what Kevin Harvick says. But just for the sake of you have a lot of people in, and I don't know if this comment was directly at Bubba. He said he had a lot of people in over their heads, right? Yeah. So, it was just one of those things for Kevin where just shut up, dude. Like, just be like, yeah, it happens. Racing incident happens. And I love talking about Kevin Harvick. Did you watch the Xfinity race? Did you go back and watch that pre-race?
No, I didn't get a chance.
You really should have, because for some reason, so Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano are in the booth, and the pre-game interview is Ross Chastain. The pre-race, the pace lap interview is Ross Chastain. And Ross makes a point about how he has to be aggressive because, unlike others, he's racing for his life. Yeah. And he's racing for his career. And it was the most awkward Kevin, because immediately after Joey Logano was like, oh, Ross is aggressive. He's even dusted it up with likes like you, Kevin. Like, immediately, like Joey Logano, I could see the grin on Joey Logano's face when he's like, oh, I get this softball to launch right out of the stadium. I'm going to make you go back and watch that pre-race.
I'm going to have to now.
Because it was so good. Ross Chastain, in the nicest way, told Kevin Harvick to shove it. Like, in the nicest possible way.
No, I think I agree with you 100%. Harvick complains way too much, but at the same time, I think it's good for the sport.
Well, I like the outgoing personality aspect. Right. I just think the complaining
NASCAR needs it.
I think Kevin Harvick needs to lay off some of these smaller teams a bit. I think Kevin Harvick needs to realize that he is at one of the three biggest racing teams with one of the three biggest budgets. And maybe Bubba Wallace isn't as great because he hasn't been here for 20 years in a top tier ride like you have, Mr. Harvick. Like, you have been kind of gifted, like he's very talented. But Kevin Harvick has never had to drive a bad race car. Kevin Harvick has always been in top tier equipment, so he can shove it.
Yeah,
that's my take.
It's tough because obviously the comments are out of line, and I think too much is being made out of him anyway. I think it's just all of these cases are just a thing of him getting frustrated. I don't think it's intentionally at guys that are younger, guys that are in lesser equipment. I think the Ross Chastain thing was frustration because he was getting raced hard in a race where he kind of assumed that he would just be better than everybody. And I think yesterday was frustration because he got taken out on lap 13 in a crash that had nothing to do with him while he was just kind of riding around. So I get it on that sense. But yeah, you just don't make those comments. You got to be more mature than that at this stage in his career. At this
point in your career, you got to realize, like, hey, I am the elder statesman. I'm in a really good ride. Bubba, this is one of the only chances Bubba has a chance to win. Like, he's got to be more aggressive. Like, lap 10 for him, it might not be the last lap for you, but for Bubba, every lap is a chance to get up there and get exposure, get somebody to maybe sponsor you next week.
Right. Yeah. I think it's good for the sport, though, for Harvick to start fires like this, because we talk about all the time NASCAR is void of these personalities that we used to see 10, 15 years ago. They're just not there anymore. Harvick is, while Kyle Busch has grown up, Kevin Harvick never really has. And I think as annoying as Kyle Busch was at his height, at his peak annoyingness, Kevin Harvick is...
I think cranky old man Harvick is starting to get there with me.
He's starting to get there. And at the end, that is good because it gets people talking about NASCAR, gets people watching. People are going to watch
Dustin
the race.
Mad.
Right. People are going to watch the race when they're like, oh, Kevin Harvick's mad at this guy. He might go take a run at him this week. That's what made people watch NASCAR in the first place, was the rivalries. Harvick, being fiery is what NASCAR needs right now. Harvick is, a top personality, top line face in the sport. And for him to, get fired up like this is important in a day and age where, you have your Ryan Blaney's and your Chase Elliott's who are really good drivers, but they aren't going to fight anybody ever. So I think it's good.
Yeah.
So Dustin, I have a bone to pick with you here. I remember at the beginning of the year, I wish that we had the footage when Dustin just screamed into the camera, "Ty Dillon sucks," because Ty Dillon just won his second stage of the season.
Yeah, Ty Dillon has more stage wins than any other Chevy driver.
And Ty Dillon's also 22nd in points. His average start and average finish are both in the 18s.
I mean, to be fair, are we really making me backpedal on a take when Ty Dillon is still not even in the top half of drivers in the sport points-wise? Are we going down there?
But
is this? I'm going to say the same thing I said to Paul in the chat the other day, because we have a group chat out of here of the former Huddle Up crew, and he was,
R.I.P. Huddle Up.
He was dunking on me about Gordon Hayward when Hayward scored 10 points. Or something like that. I'm like, is this really your victory lap right now? Is this where we're going?
I'm not, trying to have a victory lap over you, but Ty Dillon is having the best season of his career in a career that has shown steady improvement since he started.
I think Ty Dillon is having a wonderful year, and I want to actually look him up this year. 15th at Bristol, 21st, 17th. Hasn't really finished. Had 13th at Martinsville. Ty Dillon is slowly sneaking into AJ Allmendinger territory, which is a guy who I think he can steal a win or two in a couple years, but can always hang around the top 10, and not in a memorable way. AJ Allmendinger was never hanging around in a memorable way, but in a way enough where it's like, oh yeah, he's here. Ty Dillon winning that that guy, he exists and he's not bad. And Ty Dillon is having the career arc of he wants to make something out of this 13 car, this Germain Racing car, and he's raced really well, and he's shown some excitement winning those stages. It's meant a lot to him. It's meant a lot to Geico as a sponsor, and I think Germain Racing is starting to put it together. So yeah, I'm gonna backpedal on the take a little bit.
Take 2 or 3 backpedals.
I'm gonna take about 20% off there, bud. Take about 20% off. Squirrely Dan. I'm gonna backpedal. I'm gonna still say he's not one of the better drivers in the underfunded equipment. I think some other drivers who are in those bad cars are better, but he's definitely worth the spot in the car. You know, I think he's definitely a guy who can contend for some top 20s, maybe sneak into a playoffs and get a win here and there. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think that he's on his way up, but I think the big factor is he's kind of, I think this is an audition for him to get a bigger ride. If any of the Dillon brothers leave, Pop, I think that I think that Ty
I love how we've incorporated Pop as, because that's his nickname, and and I love how we've worked that in.
Right. Richard Childress talking about, obviously. I think that if either of the Dillon brothers leave their grandfather Richard Childress's team, I think Ty Dillon's the guy to do it. Childress never really, while they've got the alliance now with the 13 team, Richard never really gave Ty a car at his stable, especially, with Paul Menard or Ryan Newman were leaving. Ty Dillon was just like, staying at Germain Racing. I think Ty Dillon could be auditioning for a bigger ride. If he does this in, subpar equipment, maybe he's the next Eric Almirola, the guy who sits around in the mediocre ride for 5 to 10 years and then gets the big shot and does really well.
I don't think anybody's ever going to leave Pop. I think everyone's not going to. I don't think Ty Dillon is going to be. He's still in a car that is aligned heavily with Richard Childress Racing. So, I don't think he's going to leave that stable in that sense. But, I wonder if the sponsorship was there, if Richard Childress would move him in. Because it would make sense to move them back in for that third car and, bring the 31 back and have Ty drive the 31 with whatever sponsorship. But it looks like that might be Tyler Reddick's car. I don't know what's going on at Richard Childress Racing. They do not have a plan, it seems.
Yeah, they're just kind of throwing it at this point. They're winging it.
Pretty much.
So last topic here for the Cup race at Talladega. Fox's coverage.
You ready for me to get mad?
So I'm going to give a summary and then we're going to let Dustin out of his cage. So Fox's coverage was just absolute trash this week. If any diehard Huddle Up fans would be expecting this to be Dustin's just trash of this week.
It would be.
R.I.P. Huddle Up. So basically Fox was on break for they were on commercial for the entirety of the first wreck. They did not cut back to it at all. They came back when all the cars that had crashed were on pit road. And then they went to break a couple of times late in the race when the action was getting good, and then they completely missed Kyle Larson's flip. Kyle Larson flipping over on the last lap. In some way, somehow, like I said, they were like, oh, look at this. We have a drone camera this week. They got zero good. The only shot that they got.
2 shots of the drone camera and it sucked.
The only shot that they got with of Kyle Larson's crash was was just incredibly grainy and through a fence. So there was better fan footage of the crash on Twitter. So,
oh my lord!
Yeah, go off on Fox.
We're ready to go for this. Okay, so first off, we're going to every car is an ad. Okay. Every single car in this field, they are rolling ads, okay? Like, they are rolling ads of sponsorship that is sold for companies doing all these things. So that's what you get to start with racing, is the ads are up front. And then on top of the ads that you get in the last lap presented by Credit One, the going through the field with Geico or whoever it is.
Here's a message from Duracell.
Now a quick message from Duracell. Like the side-by-side ads. And then Fox, it just annoys me so much that, between laps 25 and between 25 and 50 to go, they had 3 breaks. So it was 5 laps, commercial break, 5 laps, commercial break, 5 laps, commercial break, which is it just sucks. It sucks because I'm watching at home. I want to get invested. I started rolling my eyes at the amount of ads, and then to miss the first wreck, not even cut back in. Okay.
Yeah.
Missed the first wreck when it was obvious that they were going really aggressive there at the beginning. They missed green flag pit stops not once but twice. Okay, so you miss you cut back into green flag pit stops. It's just what a horrendous display. Whoever is firing I think Stevie
Whoever
Wonder
is
would have a
firing
better
should be
vision
fired.
of how to broadcast a race. And he's Stevie Wonder, man. Like, he's blind. Like, it does not take an idiot to show you how to do a NASCAR race. Last 50 laps, there should be no cutaways. They should all be side by sides. At the bare minimum, they should be side by sides. I get having to sell ads for the beginning of the race.
Yeah, but that's tough. That last part, that's tough because in defense of Fox, I don't want to be in defense of Fox. I think Fox is terrible. But the ads in the last 50 laps of the race are going to be the ads that bring in the most money.
Yes.
You make a fraction of what you would make for a full ad if you go side by side, because in reality, people are just not going to pay attention to the ad at all.
Well, I actually think I pay more attention to the side by side because I am not tuning it out, because the race is still going on. I see your product, I see your side by side. So I actually think the side by side ad is more efficient.
I think you've got a point there, but I think
I'd love to see the testing on it because
I don't think if you went and told that to Fox or the ad companies,
well, Fox doesn't care. Mike Joyous even said on Twitter, like, it costs money to broadcast these races. It's like, oh, you mean the money that the tracks are getting from ticket sales and the money that cars are getting from sponsorship is not enough? The TV money, so you have to sell all these darn ads the entire time. It's just like, back off a little bit. Like, I want to watch the race. And even if Fox was like, $7.99 satellite stream, I'd pay it. I would pay for a stream that is adless. You know, you watch TV now, you can pay for adless Hulu. You can pay for adless Spotify. You can pay for adless, well, Netflix doesn't have ads, but like, you can pay.
Netflix is just bad.
Netflix is just bad. You can pay to not watch ads.
Yeah.
Like, you can watch wrestling without ads. You can watch baseball with, minimum ad interruptions. So like, even the NHL Center Ice package, you don't get ads with that. It's just a banner saying we'll be back from commercial break. Like, Fox needs to get with the times. I get you have to sell ad space, but like, fans,
it's not the future.
It's not the future. Like, the future is the side by side. The future is the quick word from Duracell that shows the race. Like, those things I pay attention more to. And if I'm Fox, like, you're missing wrecks, you're missing pit stops, you're missing everything in that race that matters. So Flo can try to sell me Progressive Insurance for the 50th time, and I already have Progressive Insurance, so I do not need Flo trying to sell me Progressive Insurance. And I do not need to see an orange vanilla Coke ad. I'm so done with orange vanilla Coke ads that I'm ready to take every can of orange vanilla Coke and stab them. Like,
did you know that you're advertising orange vanilla Coke right now?
I'm so sick of it. Like, for one, it's a bad soda, and two, like, orange and vanilla do not go together. But the ads are so in your face.
Wow, that's a hot take.
It has been 3 months. I've gone 3 months of watching TV, and all I'm hearing, like, every 5 minutes, it's orange and vanilla Coke. I'm done. Like, I'm done with you, Coca-Cola.
Okay, so Dustin's rant is over.
Hate Coke.
Here's I'm going to try to keep my rant a little bit more calm than that, and in control that one. But I think it's this. Fox.
I'm sorry, Nick. I have to interrupt you for an orange vanilla Coke ad.
Okay. Fox is. Their coverage used to be really good. You go back to probably about 2007. I think until they brought Digger onto the broadcast. I think Fox.
Hey, don't you dare really diss Digger.
Digger was stupid.
Digger was a wonderful idea. It was stupid.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, they did a really good job. The only problem is they haven't changed. The only real changes that they have ever made on this broadcast that have been any sort of progressive has been taking Larry Mack and putting him in the control room and then bringing Jeff Gordon in. Jeff Gordon is bland and awful. Quite honestly. He was a good driver, but
Jeff
stay
Gordon,
off my TV.
It's like if orange vanilla Coke took out any of the flavor and then just made itself water, sparkling. Jeff Gordon is the sparkling water, non-carbonated sparkling water of commentators.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great parallel right there.
Yes.
But
and Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip is retiring. I'm interested in seeing how they kind of rearrange it. I think Fox is on the way out anyway. I think in whatever it is, 2021, I think it is when the ad contract is up. It's sometime in the 2020.
No, hard disagree. Fox is hedging. Fox is hedged on this NASCAR contract. They've made their brand.
No, when
on
the contract is done, I think that they're out.
No, I don't think
they have taken most of the races off of Fox. Nearly all on FS1 now. I think NASCAR wants to be in a position
Fox
for the next
has also taken all their baseball off of Fox. This is their strategy to make FS1 a viable network. They've put some of the crown jewel races on FS1 because they want people watching FS1.
The problem is, though, the majority of NASCAR's fan base is not going to have the cable packages with FS1. Therefore, even if NASCAR was booming like it was 15 years ago, television numbers.
This is another part of the missteps that NASCAR has taken, in the sense of, like, every single NASCAR race should be on local television. Know your fan base, NASCAR. Know who's watching the races. It's not that hard.
And I think it's difficult because it's kind of a negotiation between the networks and the sanctioning body, because I don't think it's smart, and not even at the height was.
It's greed. It's all greed, and I think it's one of those things where. But NASCAR's greed is making it is part of why it's falling.
Right. These networks, though, they don't want to air the Michigan June race on their top network.
But here's the thing: what is Fox airing during Sunday in June?
Right.
It's infomercials. It's nothing.
Yeah, which is
it's the NutriBullet for the 15th year in a row.
But yeah, I think that it's difficult. I think Fox is on the way out, though. They have shown that other than that new studio that they put in this year, which really surprised me, so that was the first thing that they did in a really long time to kind of better their coverage. I think that was kind of shocking to me, because I feel like they had kind of given up. They've gotten rid of Supercross. They just aren't in it anymore. They don't. Their coverage of they have the trucks all year long, I believe.
Well, Fox's network strategy is garbage. Fox's strategy is actually kind of weird. If you want to take a step back from the NASCAR view, in the sense of, they've gone really heavy on college contracts.
Yeah,
they're definitely going heavy on college contracts. They went heavy on the Thursday night football, but they also didn't bid to get the draft back, so that was a little weird. Baseball is their big thing right now. I don't know what Fox's media strategy is, because they fired all their writers a couple years back for the pivot to video. The pivot to takes did not work. FS1 has kind of been a flop. Now, NASCAR related, Fox has seemed to lost their way as a network.
Yeah, I think that they're kind of like the New York Giants of the network.
I'm saying Fox Sports, because Fox News has always been off their damn rocker.
You mean to say Fox News isn't good?
Yeah, Fox News is trash. You want to talk about
Fox News
trash?
is where I get all my news, Dustin.
Oh, yeah, that's why you're a Chase Elliott fan, bud.
Where this show is officially turned into Let's Trigger Dustin. So I think that Fox is just kind of Fox is like the Giants. They
think they're doing the right thing.
1 minute they've committed to a full rebuild. The next minute they've signed Golden Tate, and they think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Fox is like the Giants because they think that Daniel Jones is what we want, when Daniel Jones is not what we want. And I don't even know if that's actually his name, because he was just such a bad pick. I just know he's the white guy from Duke. That is Fox right now.
Okay.
Awful.
Yeah, I think NBC is just completely...
NBC's blowing them off the water, because NBC went out and got IndyCar. NBC went out and got Supercross.
Other than Rick Allen, the only mistake NBC made was not having friend of the show, Alan Bestwick, back on their broadcast.
But I do think Rick Allen has gotten a lot better. I think Rick
Allen's gotten better, but to me, it's like,
I think the issue of Rick Allen is that I would like to see...
I can't like Rick Allen because he's not Alan Bestwick. And Alan Bestwick has always been my favorite guy growing up.
I like Rick Allen, but I wonder how much is it producers in his ear, because Truck Series Rick Allen was really good.
Yeah, he was.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, there's always one guy in the broadcast that's always kind of getting the narrative shoved in his ear, and it's Mike Joy for Fox, and I think it's Rick Allen. I don't think Rick Allen does well when he's boxed in. I think Rick Allen is let him go.
I think Rick Allen is better than Mike Joy anyway as a commentator.
Yeah, I think so too.
As the lead guy. But yeah, I mean, it's just my my affinity to Alan Bestwick growing up, listening to all those races, having him call the Tony Stewart's championship there in 2011.
And look, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because Alan Bestwick is one of the best in the game.
Yeah. And it's just one of those situations where as long as Alan Bestwick doesn't have a job in NASCAR, I'm never going to be able to like Rick Allen. But that being said, Rick Allen is great at what he does, and I think that he's better than Mike Joy. But yeah, NBC is just completely blowing them out of the water. So let's get on.
Let's get back to the topic. Let's get back to the show.
We just got way off track here for the second week.
Let's actually do the show, Nick.
Yeah. So let's get into some local stuff, because over the weekend,
nobody cares about Tyler Reddick at Talladega. Greg Alding, that was great. Nobody cares about Dave Portnoy. All right, let's go talk local.
We might swing back to that stuff later, so don't count your chickens. So over the weekend, Saturday afternoon, instead of watching Greg Alding finish second in the Xfinity race, I made the trip out to Airborne Speedway to...
What way did you take? Did you take the ferry, or did you drive all the way around?
Why would I take it was like 35 degrees out.
You drove all the way around?
Dustin,
to stay outside in the cold?
I live in Highgate. It's not like driving all the way. It's literally, there's no difference at all.
You're in the middle of nowhere.
Right. So
shout out to our Highgate viewers.
Yeah, all 12 of them.
There are dozens of us.
So Airborne Speedway, they're opening the day. Pretty much the weather proved to them why you don't start racing in Vermont in April.
You mean New York?
Or New York, in the Northeast. It was cold. It was miserable. It's about 35 degrees at its lowest. There was sleet multiple times, rain a bunch, lots of clouds, no sun. It was awful, but the racing was pretty good, actually. They had the 358 modifieds were out there, $2,000 top prize in that race. They ran 50 laps, and Steve Bernier ended up winning that one, making a pass with 7 laps to go on the outside. Airborne now, obviously, dirt. We've talked about that before. They made that transition over. The cold weather did not bode well for it, because it was a one-groove racetrack all night. But Steve Bernier made the outside work, and he used that to his advantage. He climbed up through the field, made the pass to win the 50-lap event there. And a good race. It was really tough to enjoy, but it was good to be out there and say, okay, racing is back.
Yeah, I saw. What did you do? Did you post to Instagram, or did you post to the Twitter account? I saw you post somewhere that you were in Airborne. I was like, oh, that poor boy. Like I looked outside. I'm like, oh, because I went to Maple Fest to get some food with Allie, and I was just like, oh, Nick went to Plattsburgh and this. Oh boy, bud. Can't say I would have gone with you. Airborne is a fun little place. I'm sure as the weather gets better than racing.
Oh yeah, they're doing a great job there. A bunch of drivers from the Franklin County area over there, which is fun to see for sure.
Well, I think it's the economical place to race if you're from Franklin County is Plattsburgh. Like it's close, it's dirt. Like you really, going down to Thunder Road.
Thunder Road's tough trip. Because not only is it a trip, but it's difficult because the rules are super strict there and a lot different. I'm not super familiar with them, obviously, because I've never raced. But from what I hear, the rules are super specific to that track and very different than other tracks in the region. So it makes it tough to be able to race your car at Thunder Road and then go out and fit into the rules package at another pavement track.
I think, and there's not many pavement tracks in the area. That's the thing. There's one pavement track in Vermont. It's Thunder Road, right? Like, so I don't even know where the second closest pavement track is besides Thunder Road.
Groveton, New Hampshire.
Groveton, New Hampshire.
Speedway 51.
Speedway 51, and then you got Loudon, but Loudon, you don't really race there. So, I love weekly races at Loudon for the smaller series. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But, so Thunder Road, you don't really go down there much, so it's nice to see, you had on this that Cam Gadju finished 8th down there in the Superstock division at Airborne.
Yeah, we had him on the show. We've had him on the show a couple of times throughout the history of the Inside Groove, and Cam was obviously he's moved up a division this year. Last year he was in the lowest division there, almost won the points championship, finished second. This year he bought a new car. He made a jump up to the Superstock division, and I was talking to him throughout the weekend. He was nervous about it, not really sure how it was going to go. Cars have a lot more power. There's a lot more competition up there. But he ran well. He kept the car clean, ran a good race, and finished 8th out of 12 cars. So obviously, you're not going to jump right into it and win right away because it's just such a jump up. So congratulations to Cam on running well in that race, and hopefully he'll get some. It'll get better over the course of the year. Another local driver, Michael Wright, who was supposed to call us last week, but
Michael Wright, who is our guy who's going to eventually call us.
He'll eventually be on this show. We're working on it. Last week he got sidetracked working on the car, but apparently he did a good enough job working on the car because he finished 3rd in the Superstock race. And then Dylan Robtoy, another one of our local guys from Swanton, he finished. He won his heat race for the Sportsman Modified, started 2nd in the feature race, and then got stuck on the outside. I talked about it earlier. It was a complete one groove racetrack because the temperature and just it being the first race of the year. There was no outside groove.
It's really hard to do.
Got stuck up there, finished 13th.
Yeah, especially if dirt. It's fair. Pavement you can deal with, cold, misty weather, but dirt, you just can't do anything with it because it gets clumpy too.
Yeah. So it was tough. ACT was in action. Their second race, 2019, was on Sunday at Oxford Speedway in Maine, and Brian Krusik won the race there over Joey Pohl, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago. So Joey's having a good year.
Joey's gotten out to a very good start this year.
2 ACT races. Now he hasn't been running the ACT as much the last couple of years, but he's run the first 2 races now, and he's finished 1st and 2nd so far. So he obviously is the points leader so far. I'm not sure if he'll run the entire schedule. I don't think he is this year, but always a contender when he's in there. And then Thunder Road, like we talked about, they've added that wall all the way around the racetrack now. So no longer just the front stretch wall in the Widowmaker. They've put a concrete wall in all the way around the racetrack as another thing there on their list of improvements.
It's a big boy racetrack now. It's completely enclosed. You can be safe.
Right.
I think looking at the Thunder Road improvements, I just wanted to read a little bit off for the viewers at home. So it's a much larger plan. We're going to make the hill closer. The Forsyth, how do you pronounce that hill name, Nick?
Forsyth Hill.
Forsyth Hill is going to be closer to turn 3. Cool. There's going to be a terrace with multi-level seating rows like the main grandstands.
Yep.
It's going to be the hill's going to be closed for the season, sadly, but the viewing area will be finished by Memorial Day. They're going to add more viewing options, make a patio area between turns 3 and 4. A new ticket booth is being closer to the track. A walkway will be added to the ticket booth that goes around the outside of the wall. A kids area, so many good things are planned for Thunder Road. They are going to try to make it a big boy track, and I am excited.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Thunder Road is a fantastic track. Not a great facility, though. It's in dire need of repair. They've got these new owners in here with Chris Machad and Pat Malone, and they're ready to make changes. They brought in an entire new set of lights for this year. They've put the wall on. They repaved the track in their first year of ownership. They've got all those planned changes. Thunder Road's going to go from a great venue to a state-of-the-art facility, and that's so important, and that's so huge for having a track in Vermont. This reminds me a lot of, it's like the local short track version of when Daytona did their Daytona Rising project. They took Daytona, which is just a cathedral as it is for a racetrack,
made it better,
and they made it a top of state-of-the-art facility. That's what Thunder Road's doing right now, and you got to like it. And I think that this opens up the opportunity to bring these higher racing series to Vermont with the Truck Series, the K&N Series, the ARCA Series, whatever they want to come up. I think that this opens up the door for them, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to go down there for the first time in a while this year. Tickets are a little expensive though. I think it's $25 for tickets now.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go down there, and we're going to go down for Thunder Road. We'll do some coverage down there at some point because I love it. It's one of my favorite places in Vermont.
Yeah, it's great. Great views, great racing. We got Christopher Bell coming there for the Governor's Cup in July.
Yes.
That's going to be fun. And Bubba Pollard, one of the best short track racers, super late model short track racers in the entire country, is coming up for the Milk Bowl.
Yes.
So those are going to be two must-see events, but really every week is must-see there. It's just great.
Every week's a good week at Thunder Road.
So, Dover's coming up next week. Real quickly here, the biggest thing I am going to be watching for is Greg Galding with the chance to win the
Dash for Cash, baby. So Greg Galding is going into this race. As of now, he does not have a sponsor either. Dash for Cash.
Dash for Cash should sponsor him by giving him $100,000 on
Can we like poke holes in the tire of each other Dash for Cash car, just so they crash in the first 10 laps? I want
Dash for Crash.
Dash for Crash. Make it a figure eight. If you're not wrecking enough cars, as the legend says, you got to turn them around and race them backwards, as your favorite driver has said.
Oh yes.
They also like soda cookies, which are actually surprisingly good.
Good start.
But I would love to see Greg Galding. He is a guy who I've always kind of had a soft spot for because he was funded, and then Krispy Kreme got bought out, so then he lost his funding, and he's been stretching it together and strapping it together and just driving whatever he can. Crap boxes in the Cup Series, and now he's got this small team that's been running well this year. Ooh, sorry. That's been running well for this year. So I want to see him win it.
All right. So Dover picks now for this week. I had another terrible week at Talladega. I had Clint Boyer and Ricky Stenhouse. I did have Chase Elliott though, which was good, but all of my other guys were just average. Dustin put up a good week. He's got a 25-point lead now with 676 points to my 701. So I will be going first for Dover, and my first pick for Dover is Kyle Busch.
My first pick for Dover is the FedEx man, Denny Hamlin. Hamlin has been very good here the last couple of years. Finished second the Chase in the fall, and then the race in the spring, he finished seventh. So Denny Hamlin is my first pick. My second pick is, I kind of got to take him, Joey Logano. He's been hot. Yeah. He's been very hot recently. I want to go with the Joe man.
I'm going with a guy who has really done well at Dover in the past. You always think back to his epic win in the Chase here a couple of years ago that kept his championship season alive. I'm going with Kevin Harvick. He's had a rough year so far. I predicted the rough year. I think it's a bit of a downslide for him, but I think he's going to be a safe top 10 for tomorrow. And then my next pick is going to be MTJ, his 12th home track. I think this one's actually his home track.
Yes, this is actually. He's from New Jersey. This is his home track.
And I think he always runs well here. This is one of his good tracks, so I'm going to take him as well.
Oh, man, you left me two softballs on the board. So which one do I want to take first? I'm going to take Chase Elliott first.
Okay.
Defending series winner here. He had a good car. He finished first and... where did he finish that spring race? He finished first and 12th last year. Yep. And then I'm going to take a guy who had two top fives at this track last year, Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch
finished fifth in both races. I like him this week.
And Kurt Busch is just a great guy to pick right now for consistency.
Kurt Busch is a good safe pick, which means he's going to crash in lap one.
Yeah. Basically. I am going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to go safe right now because you left him for me. I'm going to go Brad Keselowski, and then I'm going to go a little bit off the board with Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon is always a guy who runs well here. I think he's a sleeper for a top 5 finish in this race.
Speaking of guys who ran well here, this guy finished 10th and 3rd last year. It's going to be Daniel Suarez in the Haas Automation car. I like Daniel. I think he's a good racer. He's been having a quietly good year. And then for my last pick, I think I'm going to take Ryan Blaney. I'm going to take Ryan Blaney. You know what? He's never been a guy who's finished well here, but I think that changes. I think he's got a chance to do something fun.
And with my last pick, I am going to go the Stewart-Haas route once again. I'm going to go with the guy who probably should have won this race before he messed up epically by crashing everyone in the playoff race. He did win the next week, though, at Talladega and almost made the championship for Eric Almirola. I think he's due for, he's been running very consistently this year. I think he's due for a top 5, maybe even a win. Ford, I think, is going to win this race, but we will see. So that'll do it for us this week on the Inside Groove. Another great show here tonight. Thanks to Elizabeth for running the board. As Zach is out this week, she did a great job. Dustin with me here tonight. We will be back next week, 7 o'clock, recapping Dover and looking forward to the All-Star race, which should be fun as usual. For Elizabeth, Dustin, I'm Nick. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. This has been the Inside Groove right here on Northwest Access TV.